So I used to be a member of the American Academy of Religion, and religious scholars gather annually to discuss their areas of specialization. Thousands of religious studies scholars, in fact. And I remember one year I was fortunate to present, and before my session, I noticed a morning session that caught my attention, and it was about the use of humor in ancient Buddhist text. And I was so excited, because, I don't know how the description of things sounded, but a little dry. Did you kind of guess that? Now, I'm gonna just break for a second here, because I'm trying to see Dennis and Linda, and I'm gonna... Can I do this? Does it go down, or I'll just move it? I was just thinking about you guys, and then here I found out, maybe they've been here all along, just on the other side of a music stand. So I was intrigued because I thought, how awesome, there's a lot of kind of stuffiness here. And so I went, and there was a panel sitting there, and they travel from all over the world. And the first guy got up, and I'm not exaggerating, he had some notes. He stood up, he took his notes, and he said, "Today I'll be discussing the word burden in 3rd century Chinese Buddhist literature." And then it got boring. Now, I'm telling you that because last week, if you weren't here, that's pretty special, but there was a lot of crying last week. I was crying a lot. People here were crying a lot. It was a very emotional service. Today is a little more for the mind as we talk about nothing. And I thought it was very ironic because as much as I prepare, I like to speak very freely. And on the topic of nothing, I have notes. In particular, I'd like to begin with a little incident that I've written about. And I'm going to spoil this for myself by giving you one little clue in case you haven't caught it yet. Okay? This is the footnote. When we say spirit is everything, that means that spirit is ultimately no thing. The teachings of non-duality and the mystical traditions of the world that have fueled this very community since its inception dwell on the concept of nothing. No thing, not two, no two things. Non-dual. We like to say oneness because for our, somewhat sloppy modern minds, it's just easier to have a thing. But really, the truth is beyond even our unity. It is nothing. So, the other day I was at a social event when someone pointed out a man who had recently helped to start the new atheist church in Denver. Did you know about that? There is an atheist church in Denver. And I was kind of excited by that, because I always say everyone's welcome here, atheists included. I don't know why they had to start their own place. So I introduced myself, explaining that I was the spiritual director for the Althea Center, and I wanted to wish him well in his new venture. Immediately he said, "I don't think you understand. I believe in nothing." And I said, "Me too." No, he said, "To me, God is nothing." And I said, "Yeah, I agree. I keep trying to tell people that. God means nothing." Confused, he asked, "Then what do you teach at that place?" "Well, nothing," I answered. "I mean, nothing is sacred at Althea." "Wait a second, how can you do that?" he asked, somewhat surprised. "Well, nothing really matters if you think about it, I said. Exactly, he replied. Yes, I added, that's what I'm saying. Nothing is sacred. Right on, that's what I'm saying too, he replied. No, wait, I clarified. I mean, nothing is sacred. Right, he agreed. That's why I have no worries, because in the end, there is nothing. Exactly, I agreed. That's why I tell people that there is nothing to be concerned with. In fact, nothing is the matter. Nothing is the matter, right? Right. Nothing matters in the end. Precisely, I agreed. That's why I say nothing is sacred. Of course, he said, wow. And I thought we would have nothing in common. And I said, you actually thought that? Nothing? Well, wait, he said. I agree. Clearly, we do have nothing in common. Oh, he laughed. I get it. Nothing. He left smiling, and when I returned to my wife, she asked me, what were you talking to that man about for so long? And of course, I replied, nothing. Now, nothing is a funny topic, and this is true, I have been preparing for this moment, as disappointing as it may be for some of you, since I was in the 5th grade. When I was in the 5th grade, it was the first time I was ever asked to stand up and do a public presentation, a talk on anything I wanted, and I chose the topic, nothing. Because to me, it seemed that nothing is so important. It consumes us, even though we really don't think about it or talk about it much. Back to my notes. Nothing defines our world in so many ways. How many times have you said, I wish I could do nothing all day? And yet, we condemn nothing. It scares us. What happens when your kids sit around doing nothing all day? Don't you chase them out of the house? You've heard me talk about my poor child, right? Who gets the opposite message, right? Don't just do something, sit there. When my 9-year-old, by the way, gets home from school, and I ask him how was his day, what does he say? Awesome. I say, what did you do? He says, must have been pretty good. Nothing is everywhere. It's part of our daily life. How many times have you said, I have nothing to eat, nothing to do, nothing to wear? It's my favorite thing. Nothing to inspire me, nothing to give me a sense of direction, nothing to look forward to. And what you fail to realize is that in each of those statements, you have the most profound answer you could possibly have in your hands, and yet you miss it because you think it's nothing. Nothing is such a part of our lives. In fact, most married women will tell you that when most married men are asked what they're thinking about, the most common reply is nothing. And just to pick on the heterosexual world for a moment, when most married women come home after prolonged periods of being away, they look around the house and see that their partner has spent a tremendous amount of time doing nothing. We have 600 cable channels now, or probably more since I last had cable, and yet, remarkably, what? Nothing's on. And we have a costly, elaborate government, and most people think they spend most of their time doing nothing. Can you imagine that? 4 years of nothing? Nothing is everywhere. This goes on and on and on, but I'm going to put this down. Because remarkably, nothing really is the matter, and nothing really is sacred. If you insist on being in your head about your spirituality, then your number one topic should probably be nothing. And by that, I really do mean the contemplation of the wisdom, the teachings, and the universal experience of nothing. If you think about it, in your life, nothing has probably been your greatest teacher. When I did a talk on stillness, everyone said, "Oh yeah, that was good, stillness." But a whole service about doing nothing, it's the same thing. Meditation, nothing, right? And our deepest prayer is really to be what? It's really to be nothing. When you say, "Thy will be done," it's to let go. It's to release all that you are trying to be and do and give it to God. When we become so preoccupied with things and ideas and the accumulation of things and ideas and even experiences, then the very thing we seek becomes obscured. It becomes separate. It becomes pushed away. To focus your attention on nothing is to place in your power the knowledge of everything. We have such fear that if we let go of things, the things of ideas, the things even of identity, that if it is all released, there will be nothing left. And yet, that is the only true place that your deepest experience of spirit will begin. Everything before that is like, well, do you ever go grocery shopping like me and insist that you don't need a cart or a basket? But then you just keep finding more stuff until you actually have a bag of, potato chips hanging from your teeth. And you've got that one finger hooked into the 24-pack of toilet paper. You know the trick. That's what our spiritual lives are like. Cluttered, complicated, full of so much possessiveness. The truth is almost too simple that it's disturbing. That the answer could feel so unimportant. Not flashy, not sexy, not something to rule an empire with. The truth of what we seek lies in the contemplation of nothing. That original source that preceded all separateness, all duality, all manifestation. And in that simple awareness, we dissolve. So I actually have a little breakdown on how to make this work for you at home. This summer we have we actually have done this many summers. We have a special speaker series, which I know you'll be here for next week to experience, but I'm going to leave you 6 items for homework. Did you bring your pens and paper? Lesson number 1, do nothing. Seriously. It's funny, actually. It reminds me of when I did the talk about stillness. I was sitting in this chair and I said, try to find a time to experience 8 hours of stillness over the next 2 weeks. And 100% of the people that contacted me said, I'm working towards those 8 hours. Thank you. I've done 1, I did 2, I did 3. No one seemed to understand I meant 8 hours at once. That's doing nothing. See what you learn. See what you discover. In fact, in the Asian traditions, you can find it written about in Taoism and Buddhism and carries into other traditions. We find Wu Wei, doing by not doing. How many of you think that an argument with your spouse, partner, or coworker is best solved by further argument? Go ahead and admit it. Further explaining. Just need to be understood. Try doing nothing. Wait. Wait till the cycle of the day changes. Wait till your mood changes. Wait till you have something to eat. Wait till you have a good sleep. Just do nothing. And see how the same problem or puzzle looks just a little while later. And if you're stuck at home and you're bored, don't just regret all the things you're not doing. Do nothing. Do you see what I mean? Don't let nothing just happen to you. Do it. Engage it. Breathe into it. Observe it. Feel it. Be with the spaciousness when nothing is happening. The second, be nothing. Now, I know a lot of you have heard, but I thought we were supposed to stop being human doings and start be human beings. Yeah, I wouldn't bother with that either. Because we make being really complicated. I have to be fulfilled. I have to be authentic. I have to be spiritual. I have to be compassionate. Oh my gosh. This is crazy making. Try being nothing for a little while. As in, imagine for a moment that your opinion just doesn't matter that much. Just imagine what that might feel like. Like when you're driving or in the grocery store. Imagine if you could see how everyone's doing things wrong and know that no one really cares. It's awesome. You don't have to be anything because guess what? Even you are happening spontaneously. You have been happening since you were born. You don't have to do anything to be yourself. Allow it. That is the teaching of the mystical world. Being is a spontaneous unfolding that comes from spaciousness. Want nothing. Number 3 on the list. This is a big one. Want nothing doesn't mean you can't be attentive to the aspirations that arise, the impulses that arise, even the desires or the proclivities that arise. But to dwell on wanting, to fix the world, to change other people, to want things for yourself, to want things better or different, is to create separateness. So we work on wanting what we have. Want nothing. Celebrate what is already here. And from that place, if preference arises, then pursue it with curiosity. If from that emptiness and that acceptance of what is as it is, you feel the energy and the wisdom to move towards something, then move. But move towards it while wanting nothing, or your wanting will sabotage your efforts. Isn't that the truth? When we don't get what we want, we go into despair, judgment, confusion, spiritual bypass. But if you truly want nothing, then everything is a gift. Everything is a gift. Every smile, every cup of tea, every successful moment of your life. And the unsuccessful ones too. Number 4, fix nothing. Imagine that we extend this idea of wanting nothing, being nothing, to the world itself. Now again, I'm not talking about dishonoring or disconnecting from the impulse to heal, to love, to be an agent of change. But let it well in you as an expression of spirit. Let it not be a task or a mental project. You are here to simply be yourself. And if you, as your fullest self, brings light and love to this world, thank God for the design. But this idea that we carry everywhere we go, that things need to be fixed, is a recipe for seeing brokenness in everyone. What you didn't do right, what you should do better. Why aren't people different yet? I'm pretty shocked that we're doing as well as we're doing, to be honest. I mean, really. I mean, did you know that the lines on the highway are just paint? Every now and then, in the middle of the night, I'll drive with the lines going right under the car. Freaks my wife out. You can't do that! Get over, pick a lane. It's just a suggestion. But we follow along. We're pretty good to each other. We're pretty good to each other as human beings. So it's not to say that there aren't things that could heal or improve, but the mentality of fixing's got to go. And that means you need to worry about nothing. If you're going to worry about anything, worry about nothing. I mean, contemplate it. Think about it. Hold it. Gestate on it. Look at it. Turn it around in your mind. See what nothing does for you. This idea that mentally belaboring the past and the future is somehow going to make our lives or other lives better, I think we all know is false. Because what it breeds is the anxiety and the stress that distorts our ability to participate. And finally, if you're going to hold something, hold the notion that everything is nothing. Nothing is everything. That means you exist in a state, a pre-existing state of absolute freedom. Power in life comes not when you are forced to do things or afraid, therefore you do things, but because your actions and your being flows from the very presence of Spirit inside you. Trust in nothing is trust in that. That you can let go and allow God to work as you, through you. That's the power of nothing. Does this make any sense at all? Oh. I see a very range of answers. From yeah, right on to, I don't know, Jonathan. I liked it better when you were crying. So, let's close. A couple of summaries and a story. For your 6 lessons, there are affirmations. 1, there is nothing to do. 2, there is nothing to be. 3, there is nothing to want. 4, there is nothing to fix. 5, there is nothing to worry about. And 6, there is nothing but God. And that's what the rest arises from. It's worked out for billions and billions of years. Try it for a week. So a long time ago, and there was an old synagogue in a little village of pious, lovely people. And it was Friday afternoon, and the wise old rabbi was preparing for the evening Shabbat service. His cantor, the sacred musician who sings the liturgy, was also preparing. They were going over the scrolls and the passages and agreeing to what would be read and sung that night. And in a moment of quiet, almost doing nothing, the rabbi had a great epiphany. He saw through his self-importance, the preoccupation with doing a service and getting it right, and he broke into tears. In fact, he ran to the front of the altar on his knees, and he began to beat his chest, crying, dear God, I am nothing. I am nothing, dear God." And the cantor was moved also to tears by the passion of his rabbi. He felt the truth of letting go of self-importance, and he ran to his side, and he beat his breast, and he wept, "I am nothing. I am nothing. I am nothing." And the custodian in the back of the room watched this scene, and so moved, walked humbly to the front, fell to his knees beside them, looked to the sky and wept, "I am nothing. I am nothing." And the cantor turned to the rabbi and nudged him and said, "Look who thinks he's nothing." Thank you.